what has to happen in Russia for things to change? I don't see that being possible. Russia, for the last 300 years, I think, has had the same imperialistic idea of expansion through force. And they have followed the very same primitive way to do that. Attack them when they're weak. To make the Russians stop is to take away their resources and to make Ukraine strong. Ukraine is building up their army. I don't really watch what Donald Trump says, because he has really no information on what's going on in Ukraine. He gets his information from an echo chamber of Russian propaganda narratives, and I, as a military blogger, I'm on the side of truth. I have no interest in sharing Russian propaganda narratives.
Today I'm joined by Estonian blogger and military analyst Artur Rahi. He's also an Estonian Defense Forces reservist, which gives him a unique perspective. On his channel, one can find a full picture of Russia's war in Ukraine, starting from the moment hundreds of thousands of Russian soldiers were gathering near the eastern border of Ukraine in late 2021. He's not just an observer, he's a dedicated volunteer who has been to Ukraine many times, actively fundraising, helping to develop and manufacture drones for the front lines. He even details this experience in his book, 8 Missions to Ukraine, showing a deep understanding of the operational reality of modern military technology. So with pleasure, we dive into the conversation. Artur, it's my pleasure to have you here in our studio. Hi.
Pleasure to be here. Hi.
So, Artur, I know you primarily focus on military analysis, but you also touch upon political themes. And my question is a bit mixed. Estonia has been a NATO member for 20 years, even more. But you share a border with the aggressor, and the sense of a threat is inevitable. Does the alliance membership provide you with a genuine, feeling of a security, or maybe it's just a psychological shield rather than, absolute guarantee of a protection of the NATO?
The answer is yes and no. They do provide real tanks. There is a real tank battalion present in Estonia. It always has been ever since the start of the full-scale invasion. But these tanks, even a tank battalion, will never be enough to stop the whole invading Russian army. So this is what we have to do. This is what we are training for. We have a full NATO battalion ready in Estonia. Another one is stationed in Lithuania. Actually, a whole Western brigade. But it will not be enough to stop the invading Russian force. So this is what we have to do as Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, even Finland and Poland are in this list. We take this defense so seriously that Estonia now has over 5% of GDP dedicated to defense, one of the highest in NATO. And now Latvia joins us up, Lithuania joins us up, Poland is spending like crazy. So we're not having any kind of cloud castles or ideas that NATO will come to save us. We have to do that, but NATO is here to help. But most of the fighting, the first meter of defense, that's us. We will do that.
Artur, probably if you heard not a few days ago, but maybe a few weeks ago, there was a speech, very bright, of Garry Kasparov in Canada on the security conference. He's one of the most prominent Russian opposition voices on the West. And he said that the question is how the countries, especially those who are bordering with Russia, will react when Russia will attack. Now it's the question more not if, but when they will attack. Do you think, well, let's imagine, in theory, how Estonia will react if there will be something like a war between Russia? The first days, the first reaction.
Well, ever since 1991, we Estonians have had a mandatory conscription for young men. For example, Latvia abolished it, and now they're bringing that back, and Lithuania also has it. So we never abolished it. We have always had it. There were never illusions ever since Merkel was opening up gas pipelines with Russia. We never had that illusions that Russia is our friend. For not a moment we stopped training our young men. So our male population, like Finland, is ready to take up weapons and fight back from the first meter that those Russian tanks roll over the border. There will be anti-tank obstacles, ditches. From the very first moment, there will be shots fired back. There will be no retreat, and Russians will have to pay for every meter they cross into our soil with their blood.
Yeah, and also I recently spoke with my colleague and my friend, Kalen Robertson, and he was covering military trainings in Estonia, and he saw how civilians and military personnel training together. And it gives the feeling that the country is not naive but about the threat, as you just said. What is the national mood like right now regarding the danger of posed by the Russian Federation?
There is fear and there is readiness. Why is there two different emotions? Because those who have completed the mandatory conscription and they are part of a military unit, they know what to do in case of invasion. If you know what to do, you act. If you act, you're less afraid because you feel like you change something. You are the master of your own time and reactions. But some people who have not completed conscription or are not so connected with their military unit, for example, or haven't had this kind of training, they have this feeling of, what can I do? I don't know what to do. So the answer is split in two. Those who know what to do and have their military unit, they will fight, they're ready, they know what to do. Those who haven't done so are afraid. And it's a very natural reaction. And this is why also every time I have this in Estonia, I indulge or encourage people to go to voluntary defense, territorial defense forces, complete the conscription, complete the training, to know what to do, because this eliminates fear.
Artur, if someone is telling you that they are tired of Russia's war in Ukraine, what would you say to them?
I would definitely not seek to go in conflict with these people, because that makes them to shut down, and that's not my goal. My goal is to get them to not be tired of this conflict, but to rethink that they are tired, because they are actually not tired. They lack perspective. They have not lost a friend, a daughter or a son in a Russian missile attack. They have not lost friends. They have not felt this terror. If they had, then this tiring they're feeling is, I would call it a laziness of being in the nice, cozy Western world. I wouldn't say that they have no right to be tired, but I think they need re-education in a way. They need perspective, and I try to give them that perspective on my channel through humor, to take down their defenses, mental defenses. Because if I would go in conflict immediately, oh, you have no right to be tired, you know what the Ukrainians are feeling, they would shut down, they would never watch me again. So my goal is to slowly bring them in through humor and open up the Ukrainian situation, Ukrainian perspective, and educate them.
Yeah, Artur. The good humor is a very strong side of you. Let's talk about the Russian economy, not in details, but sometimes it's very difficult in Ukraine to see the complete picture in Russia. After all, you know, the facts, they're twisted and they carefully hide the true picture, almost like, you know, North Korea. So what's your impression? Is Russia holding up surprisingly well after nearly 4 years of the full-scale invasion?
Russia has held out a lot better than I would have thought at the beginning years of war. Now that this illusion has been broken in my head, I too was thinking that Russia would fall sooner, their economy would break sooner. This was my mistake. Now I have been educated on this fact. Their economy has been resilient, but it shows very strong signs of cracking, very strong signs of overheating, and they're such a behemoth of a country. It's really difficult to bring them down. You gotta strike their refineries and factories and export terminals of oil. You got to strike them thousands of times. And this is what the Ukrainian drone forces are doing. It has an effect. It works. But Russia is just so big and so massive. To bring that down takes time, takes patience. It takes methodical approach to pinpoint striking every last Russian revenue source, revenue stream, which Ukrainians are doing. But it will take more time.
Yeah. Have you seen the latest interview of Politico with American President Donald Trump? The one when he said that Russia is in a quite stronger position in the negotiation process than Ukraine because it's bigger. I
don't really watch what Donald Trump says, because he has really no information on what's going on in Ukraine. He gets his information from an echo chamber of Russian propaganda narratives. And I, as a military blogger, I'm on the side of truth. I have no interest in sharing Russian propaganda narratives. So I don't really watch what Donald Trump is saying on Ukraine because it usually comes from the Kremlin. So this is why I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's a nice choice. In one of your publications, you said that you believe that while it might take years for Russian society to grasp the futility of this war due to their imperial thinking, that realization is inevitable. What do you see as the primary trigger point for that shift in Russian society?
Well, Russians only stop foreign aggression. Why I'm saying this, because you can look at, let's say, 300 years of Russian foreign aggression. They only stop when they run out of resources, and they never attack a stronger enemy. They only attack a weaker enemy, and only when they have resources so they think they can win. That's why they attacked Ukraine also, because Putin had this information from this intelligence chief that we have the fifth column in Ukraine and the people will come to our side and yada yada, we will win. It was a wrong fact. So to make the Russians stop is to take away their resources and to make Ukraine strong. Ukrainians building up their army. Strong Ukrainian army, weak Russian resources. That is the module for no war with Russia in the future. They will only attack weaker parts, weaker countries, and only when they have the resources. So Ukrainian army is actually lessening the resources by attacking their oil refineries and building up their army, which is the strongest security guarantee anyone could give Ukraine. Not the European Union, not NATO, not the USA, but the strong Ukrainian army is the only working security guarantee against Russia in the future.
In your book, 8 Missions to Ukraine, you write about working with the GUR, Defense Intelligence of Ukraine, and you delivered critical Rehi drones to the front line. Am I correct?
Yes, actually, these drones actually can be seen even here. I mean, this is a General Baba Yaga drone, now very common in the Ukrainian armed forces, but in 2023, at the beginning of it at least, Baba Yaga-style big rotary wing drone that carried up to 20 kilograms, that was really rare and really phenomenal. So we started that process up, and it was really awesome to see how, with the donations coming from America, HUR could actually make the first prototypes and they could carry heavy loads. And Russians, at the beginning of seeing first-time Baba Yaga drones up in there, they were really afraid of them. They published videos about it, and I reported on them. It was such a glad feeling that I could connect American people in their homes, their wish to help, with HUR, who actually is one of the most effective ways to help Ukrainians. And now we see what came out of it. There are Baba Yagas everywhere. There are HUR drone programs that hit deep strikes, deep targets inside Russia. I'm not connected to that anymore, but it was such an honor to be part of it.
Yes. You know, it's such an ironic name for the drones, Baba Yaga.
Oh, yeah.
Who created that? Who created that? You?
I think the Russians themselves actually gave that name.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure, but it would be perfect.
But back then, what was the most probably unexpected problems for those drones to get to the front line?
The biggest problem was and still is the money, always the money. Ukrainians have intelligence population. They have shown that they can make so many drones and weapons in different types, not that we have this one type like the Russians have the Shahed. Ukrainians have over 200, even more now, defense startups that are making different high-tech solutions. They have the people, they have the know-how, they don't have the money. And that's always a difficult thing. So I could help with that. My good friend Jake Bro is definitely helping with that right now. He has fundraised, I think, close to 10 million now for the Ukrainians. So the money, you give them the money, they will make anything. They can outperform and outproduce and out-innovate Russia, but they need the money.
And beyond the drones, which have already become a fearsome weapon, what other unexpected technologies do you think will change the course of this war in the coming months?
Yeah, one of Russia's biggest selling point in their propaganda is their so-called Wunderwaffe, which are always empty threats. They haven't made any super weapons that have any kind of strong effect on the battlefield. The biggest effect of this war in one weapon, I would put it to Shahed drone, which is the most stupidest, easiest drone to make, and it's simple and it's cheap, it's mass producible. Not a Wunderwaffe, it's an opposite of that. It's the easiest, cheapest drone to make. But the numbers. This war is about numbers like every war. It's about logistics. If you can make 1,000 Shahed drones fly in a country in one day, that's a lot worse than making one Wunderwaffe missile. It's so if you ask me what's the technology that will change this war, then I would say there is no such technology. It's about logistics. Who can manufacture more, faster, precise, cheaper? It's about that.
But what type of the technologies are not important anymore, or not as important as it was even 2 or 3 years ago?
Oh, that's actually a really difficult question. Some would say immediately a tank or an infantry fighting
Yes, I
vehicle,
thought you're going to say tank,
I'm not
yes.
going to say that. I'm opposing to that. There is a very big reason for tanks to exist, and Russians are not using tanks and infantry fighting vehicles because they're actually lacking them in big numbers. They use them up to the very point that they ran out of them mostly. But tank and infantry definitely have a very big position in today's warfare. People see these FPV drones and they say infantry is done. Tanks are done. But that's an extremely limited understanding of how frontal warfare works. Most of heavy movement in the front is done with infantry. Drones or no drones, you cannot replace infantry. It is impossible, absolutely impossible, for now and for the future. Infantryman remains the most mobile, intelligent, important part of any frontal activity. And the fact that you can take them out with drones, the same that World War I, defensive weaponry, the Maxim machine gun eliminated thousands, hundreds of thousands of attacking infantry. That did not replace the infantryman as the most effective frontal assault weapon, and it still is. So I would oppose. I think tanks and infantry fighting vehicles are not losing their position. If you take out the drones immediately, who has more tanks will win.
So all those movies that we have seen about the future, about that machine are fighting on the front lines instead of people, it's just not true. It's not coming.
We have some instances, very awesome instances of seeing Ukrainian ground vehicles, ground drones, and Russian ground drones, and then Ukrainian drones attacking Russian drones, this kind of futuristic warfare ideas. But most of frontline movements by Russia are done with infantry. Most of frontline liberations of villages are done by Ukrainian infantry, and that has been the case entirely of this war. Drones can, for example, medevac soldiers, really good if a drone rescues a Ukrainian soldier, but they cannot liberate a village. They cannot evacuate an elderly couple from the basement of some frontline village. Infantry will never go away. If people say this, then they just lack understanding of how frontline warfare works.
What is the weakest sides and characteristics of Russian army?
Logistics, I would say logistics. They have manpower, they're using that quantity as quality. They have so much quantity that it turns into a quality itself. Such a big percentage of just infantry being used on the front. It's difficult for Ukrainian drones to deal with. But what they're lacking is good logistics. Ukraine is, of course, hunting that logistics very effectively, like is Russia doing with the Ukrainian logistics, and both sides have the same issue. It's logistical paths and the drones that are just eliminating every package that is sent to the front.
As you mentioned already, that Estonia clearly understands the threat of Russia better than most. What is the main lesson you've taken from Ukraine that NATO must immediately implement to strengthen its eastern defense?
When you would say that I would say we would need more drones. We would need. But Ukraine would need more infantry. It's such a weird thing to say, but Ukrainians have millions of drones per year that they're shooting out. They are lacking infantry. We are lacking drones, actually, in NATO, because we haven't picked up on that. We're doing that, but we're doing that to a lesser tempo than the Ukrainians. The innovation that we need is drones adapted to squad level in infantry formations, movements, battle tactics. We are adapting that, but it takes years of training. So NATO armies down to squad level, battle pair level, have not integrated drones yet.
Yeah, and I just want to follow up on that one. From your unique position as an Estonian reservist working with the Ukrainian intelligence, how do you see the ideal security plan for Europe after Ukraine wins? I have no doubts she will. So can we ever go back to living alongside with Russia?
I don't think we can. I don't think we ever were there. Since you ask, can we go back? That implies that there was a time when we could live peacefully with Russia. We Estonians never did. We never ended our conscription because we never thought we can trust Russia. And we always thought that they will attack again. It was the Germans and Spanish and French and Italians who perhaps thought that now the times are different, especially the Germans with Angela Merkel and the pipelines, you know. We never had that illusion. Finnish never had that illusion because they fought two wars with Russia, the Winter War and the Continuation War. And they were the only ones to actually beat the Soviet Russia at that time as a smaller nation. So if you're asking if we can ever go back there, my answer is no. And we have never gone back there as Estonia. We have never been there, actually. We have never lived peacefully next to Russia because we have always gotten ready that they will attack us. And they just proved to everybody that that has been their plan. So what has to happen in Russia for things to change? I don't see that being possible. Russia, for the last 300 years, I think, has had the same imperialistic idea of expansion through force. And they have followed the very same primitive way to do that. Attack them when they're weak. They attack always the weaker neighbor. So when you're strong, when you build up your military, Russia will not attack you. It's a very primitive rule they follow. So if you want to live peacefully with the Russians, have a very strong military.
So when Mark Rutte is saying that Russia will definitely attack NATO in the nearest 5 years, do you believe that or not?
No. Mark Rutte, unfortunately, also comes from a Central European country, and like the German intelligence is saying that Russia might attack the Baltics in the next yada yada years. Germans never knew, the Central European countries never knew how to understand Russia and their intelligence, what to look at as a signs of attack. I think, again, if you want to really find out how to read the Russians, listen to the Ukrainians, Polish, the Baltics, and Finnish. We live next to them. We have watched over that border with detail. How much blood do they have in their hospitals on the front line? How much work are they doing on the pavement of roads near the front line? Like, we're looking all of the small details. If Mark Rutte, our German intelligence, are saying that Russia attacked the Baltic this and then time, they never had an idea how to deal with the Russians. They opened up 2 pipelines, for Christ's sake, that funded this war. So yeah, I would suggest to listen to Finnish intelligence, Polish intelligence, and they have a bit of a different story. It's a possibility or a potential, but right now, honest opinion is that the border is empty. Russians even are undermanning Estonian border, for example. Now, this can change really fast, but right now, there's nothing there.
And during the latest time, Russia is constantly provoking NATO airspace with the drones, unidentified objects in the sky. Do you think the Europeans are reacting properly on this threat?
I think the main goal of the Russian Air Force and the Russian intelligence with these operations is to see, number one, the speed of the reaction, the strength of the reaction, and what units will be used to react, and every information they get out, how fast and strong the Europeans will react. And if they will shoot it down, everybody's screaming, we should shoot it down. Now, I am on the side that we shouldn't, because Russian goal in the European Union, European countries, is to provoke a very strong reaction, it's a provocation. So to react to that is to be on the reactive side. And in military terms, if you are the reactor, not the initiator of any conflict, you're already on the losing side. So I'm not for shooting it down like that. I am for calm, cool heads and reacting properly. And this is, I see, what we're doing. We have NATO presence in the Baltics, Finnish and Poland lands. We have air defense systems here. We have the ability to shoot down these planes. We choose not to because we don't need to react to any small Russian provocation, because we are the stronger side. And a stronger side does not need to react to a mosquito. If there is a war, Kaliningrad will be bombed to smithereens. So we don't need to flex the force that we have, because we are a stronger force.
Artur, given the fact that you are analyzing the Russia's war in Ukraine for at least 4 years, almost, what are the biggest breakthrough in Ukraine you may name? Well, we've discussed about the drones. Definitely they are. But what else?
I have really enjoyed the work of Ukrainian intelligence, HUR and SBU, both of their operations. For example, I really enjoy the work of hunting down the 76th Air Assault VDV units that were in Bucha, and the hunting down of these unit soldiers, even down to the very privates. This was the unit that did the war crimes in Bucha. We all know what I'm talking about here. And even now I'm reporting about 1 week ago, behind enemy lines, some GAR blowing up that had 2 servicemen of 76 VDV. And these missions come out almost monthly. I love the fact that Ukrainian intelligence has the capability and power and will and resolve to hunt down those responsible for these war crimes. That sends a message to the world about the Ukrainian capabilities, and sends a message to the Russians that their crimes will be punished now, 3 years from now, 5, 10, 20. It is like Mossad after Second World War. In the 70s in Argentina, they were still hunting down these Nazis. I am so glad to see the same behavior towards Russian war criminals, and I really admire that.